my gosh! My gosh! Megan, you are out of this world. Can we get 10 last seconds before you go out of here? Let's go! Here she goes!
Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion were almost never seen together again until this point. According to reports, a new video has surfaced that purports to show Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion at the hospital immediately after Tory was taken to the emergency room after a vicious attack at the prison. Is the internet going crazy again, or is there a reconciliation taking place behind the scenes? Let's dissect what's actually happening. The purportedly viral hospital footage. Behind jail, Tory Lanez just had a terrible fade that nearly killed him. Tory, who is presently serving his 10-year sentence at California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, was taken to the hospital on May 12, 2025, after being shanked 14 times. This wasn't just a small fight. His stab wounds to his face, head, chest, and back resulted in the collapse of both lungs, posing a serious risk to his life. Santino Casio, an inmate serving life in prison with the possibility of parole for second-degree murder, first-degree, attempted murder with a dangerous weapon, and inflicting grievous bodily injury, was recognized by prison officials as the suspected attacker. Nor is this the first time Casio has acted violently in the pen. In 2008, he was convicted of assault after stabbing another prisoner, which resulted in an additional 6 years in prison. It's obvious that the guy frequently uses shanks on other prisoners. The assault occurred in a prison housing unit at approximately 7:20 a.m. Casio reportedly stabbed Tory 7 times in the back, 4 times in the torso, twice in the back of the head, and once across the left side of his face with a manufactured prison shank. In a timely manner, the jail staff requested emergency medical aid. Tory was transported to Kern Medical for emergency care because his condition was so bad that he had to be taken to a hospital in Bakersfield. The seriousness of the attack was confirmed by a statement on Tory's verified Instagram account, which also mentioned that he needed a breathing equipment at first, but eventually learned to breathe on his own. According to the message, Tory was in high spirits, spoke properly, and was incredibly grateful to God that he was surviving despite his serious injuries. Tory is a positive and resilient young guy who is anticipated to heal, even if the path ahead won't be simple. According to his lawyer, Jose Baez, who spoke to TMZ. The timing of this jail attack is especially suspicious since it occurred a few days after Megan's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon were contacted by a prominent national news outlet regarding a story on possible new evidence in Tory's case. Given the time, Tory's legal team is speculating that there may be a more serious issue at play, which we'll discuss in more detail later in this video.
The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
Casio was immediately placed in restricted housing after the incident, while the Office of the Inspector General, the Kern County District Attorney's Office, and the prison's Investigative Services Unit conducted a thorough investigation, although an official motive has not yet been determined. Experts on prison violence point out that prominent inmates like Tory are frequently targeted, particularly in institutions like Tehachapi. Tory's injuries were serious, so let's take a moment to discuss the medical aspect. His bilateral pneumothorax, or collapsed lungs, is a severe medical emergency that could be lethal if left untreated. Proper breathing becomes difficult or impossible when air enters the gap between the lungs and the chest wall, causing the lungs to collapse. In actuality, Tory's ability to breathe on his own is a huge step forward in his recuperation. Weeks are usually needed to recuperate from such damage, and consequences like pneumonia, infections, or repeated lung collapse are still major worries. The numerous stab wounds also generate extra risk factors for infection, particularly in a prison setting where antibiotic-resistant bacteria can be prevalent. According to medical specialists who have remarked on the case, Tory's legal team hasn't held back when citing this incident to support his transfer or release. His reps made some shocking statements regarding the circumstances and timing of the attack during a press conference that was held soon after it occurred. Although we are unable to confirm these conspiracy theories,
after over 2 years in prison without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. Let's stop treating this like some cultural war flashpoint. This is about a man, a father, a son, Daystar Peterson, who has sat in a prison cell for over a year based on a case that wouldn't pass the smell test in any honest courtroom.
We do know that Tory's team is taking advantage of the situation to advocate for a petition to Governor Gavin Newsom, requesting that he either shorten his sentence or grant him a pardon. The attack has sparked discussions about whether justice was actually served and rekindled interest in his case. The hashtag #FreeTory has been trending since the incident, with supporters claiming that this near-death experience warrants humane release. Others point out that although jail violence is regrettable, a conviction rendered by a jury that heard all the evidence remains valid. Notably, Tory has continued to pursue his musical career while inside. Earlier this year, he released the album, Peterson, which peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200. He has demonstrated his will to remain relevant in the industry despite his sentence by releasing tunes over prison phone conversations. He had announced a new record that would be released in the summer of 2025 on Instagram just 3 days prior to the stabbing. Let's now discuss the response from star Peterson, Tory's father, who has been outspoken about his son's case from the start. In a tearful press appearance following the stabbing, Star reaffirmed appeals for his son's release and voiced concerns for his safety. This is the same man that reacted in such a notorious way to his son's original conviction. Star's impassioned response demonstrates the case's profound familial impact, which has now been exacerbated by this almost fatal prison attack.
I just stood here in this Los Angeles County and witnessed the worst miscarriage of justice that this world has ever seen. You want to know how I feel? I'll tell you exactly how I feel. I got some names that I want to call. Alex Spiro, Desiree Perez, and the whole wicked system of Rock Nation, including you, Jay-Z.
Supporters of Tory consider this as more proof that the odds are stacked against him. Let's be honest about something else, even while detractors insist that he is only dealing with the fallout from his conduct. This stabbing at the prison wasn't an isolated incident. The background of Meg and Tory's continuous court disputes is extensive. Megan Thee Stallion obtained a 5-year restraining order against Tory until January 2030, just this past January, alleging that he was using third parties to plan harassment campaigns against her while she was incarcerated. Meg testified on camera during the restraining order hearing, shedding tears as she talked about her persistent anxiety. "I haven't been at peace since I've been shot, and I'm just trying to be unheard, not only by the person who shot me, but by the people he's been paying to continue to harass me." The judge's decision to give this extended injunction implies that there was solid proof of ongoing harassment, even while Tory remains incarcerated. This already chaotic situation is further complicated by the stabbing in the prison. Without providing concrete proof, Tory's legal team is now speculating that the attack's timing may be related to their attempts to include fresh evidence in his appeal. Although prison safety experts point out that prominent prisoners regularly experience violence inside bars, regardless of outside legal developments, this feeds conspiracy fantasies among his fans. Following a severe stabbing in prison, Tory Lanez is currently recuperating from a lung collapse that left him fighting for his life. Due to misunderstandings or intentional attempts to construct a different storyline around the initial case-to-shooting incident, trial, and convictions, these two distinct circumstances are being confused. Let's begin with the actual occurrence. A crisis featuring Megan Thee Stallion, government name Megan Pete, Tory Lanez's real name Daystar Peterson, Meg's then homegirl Kelsey Harris, and Tory's security guard Daquan Smith arose on July 12, 2020, following their arrival to Kylie's opulent crib in the Hollywood Hills. The four of them were in a whip together when a violent disagreement broke out, according to what transpired in court. According to reports, there was significant friction between Meg and Tory because of their past situationship and their disparaging remarks about each other's rap abilities. The situation became so intense that Meg insisted on getting out of the car. The primary focus of the court case was what transpired thereafter. Meg testified that Tory screamed, "Dance, A," and began firing rounds at her feet from the whip's window as she was leaving the SUV, striking her in both feet. In her later testimony, she said that Tory was simply too inebriated that evening to try to silence her and Kelsey about the incident.
There was an argument in the car?
It was an argument because I was ready to go and everybody else wasn't ready to go. But that's like normal friend stuff. Like, we fuss about silly stuff all the time.
Paying them each $1 million to do so. Meg described what transpired during the confrontation in an interview with Gayle King on CBS Morning. Meg also talked about her first feelings after being shot.
I didn't even want to move. I didn't want to move too quick, like, cause I'm like, oh my God, if I take the wrong step, I don't know if he can shoot something that's like super important. I don't know if he could shoot me and kill.
Meg had injuries to her feet when the police pulled over the SUV. After receiving allegations of gunfire around 4:30 in the morning, Meg initially told the police that she had stepped on some glass, She later clarified that she had this headgear because she was afraid of how things would get out of hand with the police, particularly in light of the tensions surrounding police brutality against black people following the murder of George Floyd. Tory only received a ticket for carrying a concealed weapon that evening, when Meg went on Instagram Live in August 2020 and accused Tory of being the shooter and claimed that his team was distributing false information about what happened.
So I get out the car and it's like everything happens so fast. And all I hear is this man screaming. He said, dance. And he started shooting. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like he shot a couple of times. And I was so scared.
The matter took a significant shift. The medical receipts were important in court, so let's talk about them. To remove bullet fragments from her feet, Meg needed surgery. She then testified about persistent nerve damage, walking difficulties, and chronic discomfort resulting from these injuries. Meg's physician, Dr. Lee Hirono, attested to the fact that X-rays revealed bullet fragments in her foot throughout the trial. Meg's claim that she was shot rather than stepping on glass was mostly supported by this medical data. In October 2020, Tory was charged by Los Angeles prosecutors with 1 count of assault with a semi-automatic firearm and 1 count of carrying a loaded unregistered burner in a vehicle. A 3rd charge of discharging a firearm with gross negligence was later added. This marked the official start of the legal proceedings. Tory entered a not guilty plea to every accusation. During the pretrial phase, some aspects were apparent. When Tory appeared at Rolling Loud Miami in August 2021, he broke a restraining order that required him to keep away from Meg, who also performed at the event, and his bond was increased from $190,000 to $250,000. Prosecutors and Tory's team discussed a potential plea agreement in September 2021, but they were unable to agree. When Tory began releasing music that addressed the accusations, the situation became even more chaotic. In his album Daystar, which was released in September 2020, Tory denied shooting Meg and asserted that he was being set up. Many criticized this action, claiming he was attempting to profit from a grave circumstance. The hosts of The Breakfast Club talked about Tory's choice to use music to address everything when the album was announced.
Well, Tory Lanez returned to Twitter and said, "To my fans, I'm sorry for my silence, but respectfully, I got time today, 9 p.m. PST." And then he said, "There's a time to stay silent and a time to speak." He also captioned a photo of his new album's cover art. He said, "I said all I could say on this." So he put out a new album called Daystar.
Artists were taking sides, and the hip-hop scene was in ruins. Meg received a lot of criticism and distrust on social media. As a result of this feud, while some rappers, like JoJo and Kehlani, supported Meg, others, including Drake and Da Baby, seemed to cast doubt on her story in their verses. Despite his initial reservations, 50 Cent apologized following the trial. In December 2022, the trial finally began, exposing all of the receipts. Meg testified passionately about the incident and its aftermath, detailing the psychological and physical anguish of enduring internet hatred and public scrutiny. She admitted that the experience made her feel so hopeless that she considered taking her own life, stating, "I wish she would have shot and killed me if I knew I would go through this torture." Meg's ex-homegirl, Kelsey Harris, was present as everything fell apart, making her section of the trial one of the messiest. In an 80-minute interview with prosecutors in September 2022, Harris supported Meg's account and claimed that Tory had bribed her and touched her. However, Harris pleaded the fifth and provided evasive, conflicting testimony when she was called upon to testify in court, although Harris denied accepting any bribes in court. The prosecution produced a recording of his interview, which corroborated Meg's story. According to Tory's defense, Harris may have been the one who fired the rounds because he was envious of Tory and Meg's situationship, which she disputed. "Help Tory shot Meg" was the text message Harris sent to Meg's security, and it was used. As proof, both sides presented conflicting forensic evidence in the case. Tory's DNA was inconclusive on the gun, and both Tory and Harris had gunshot residue, while the prosecution insisted that additional evidence, such as witness statements and circumstantial evidence, demonstrated Tory's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense said that this was insufficient to link him to the gun, although posters on X subsequently claimed an eyewitness saw Harris with the gun, which was not supported in court. A neighbor called Sean Kelly testified that he saw Tory fire. Despite the complexity of the evidence, the jury was ultimately persuaded that Tory was the shooter. Evidence also included a taped jail call in which Tory apologized to Harris for the shooting, claiming that he was intoxicated, while Tory didn't expressly admit to shooting in this call. Prosecutors believed his apology demonstrated consciousness of guilt. On December 23, 2022, the jury returned a verdict following 2 days of deliberation. A jury consisting of 5 men and 7 women convicted Tory Lanez guilty on all 3 charges. Sonstar Peterson, Tory's father, erupted in the courtroom, yelling at the prosecutors and accusing them of having a rotten system. Sonstar Peterson carried on his tirade outside the courthouse, Tory was detained without bail, pending sentencing following the verdict.
The only independent witness in this courtroom is a man whose name is Sean Kelly. He came to court, and our attorneys, he would not even shake their hand after he went upstairs with Kathy Toth and Alex Buck.
There was additional drama at the sentence phase. Citing Tory's attempt to degrade and re-traumatize Meg via social media and music releases, prosecutors sought for a 13-year sentence. Tory's charity work, childhood tragedy, losing his mother when he was 11, and his alcoholism were all highlighted by the defense when they requested probation. In a written statement, Meg, who did not attend the sentencing court, claimed that Tory had made fun of her trauma and that she had not experienced a day of calm since the shooting. Tory accepted full responsibility for his behavior that evening and apologized, but he insisted he wasn't guilty of the specific claims, subsequently asserting on Instagram that he was only accountable for verbal and private exchanges. Judge David Hereford condemned Tory Lanez to 10 years in jail on August 8, 2023. Judge rejected the defense's trauma-based arguments for a reduced sentence. Highlighting the seriousness of the crime while acknowledging Tory's positive traits, Tory was moved to North Kern State Prison in Delano, California, to begin his term. After being sentenced in September and October of 2023, the judge denied his bail request during the appeals process, stating that Tory was a flight risk due to the violent nature of the offense and his non-citizen status. He is Canadian. Since the trial, Tory's legal team has been on a mission. His lawyers appealed, arguing that the testimony was improperly included and that there was not enough evidence. Tory's driver made a fresh claim in July 2024, claiming he didn't witness who shot Meg but that Tory attempted to disarm her after Harris took the gun. This claim has not been verified and was not made during the trial. Supporters of Tory have more recently cited a statement from his legal team that suggests foul play in the case.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun.
In the hip-hop world, the case has continued to generate contentious discussions over credibility in gender violence. Meg has discussed how the case brought to light systemic problems, including as black people's mistrust of the police and misogyny aimed at black women. On May 12, 2025, Tory suffered a serious fade after being shanked 14 times by another prisoner in the California Correctional Institution. This was the most recent significant development in this ongoing story. This incident may have added to the misunderstanding around purported new video evidence and brought the issue back into the public eye. Notably, the legal system has made its decision and, after considering all the evidence, found Tory guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt. Despite this, there is still a lot of discussion and conjecture about the case, particularly on social media, where false information travels quickly. Persistent legal disputes, false information, and cultural effects. Both parties have been in the legal trenches since Tory was found guilty and given a sentence. Throughout the appeal process, Tory's team has been submitting petitions and appeals, contesting the trial's fairness and attempting to secure a new trial, a less sentence, or bail for him. None of these strategies have been successful thus far, as courts have continually upheld the first conviction. Meg's assertion that Tory is still on her head, even while incarcerated, has been one of the most significant post-trial events. Meg requested a restraining order against Tory in November 2024, claiming that he was using his goons, particularly bloggers, to launch a harassment campaign from prison to disseminate false information about her and the 2020 shooting case. Tory was referred to in the 194-page appeal as a violent and dangerous criminal whose acts were seriously upsetting Meg and harming her reputation. Among the specific accusations were that Tory was using prison call logs to coordinate attacks on Meg's credibility with bloggers, casting doubt on whether she was indeed shot, and dissecting her story. A temporary restraining order was issued in November 2024 as a result of this legal action. Then on January 9, 2025, a 5-year civil harassment restraining order was granted, valid until January 2030. Meg testified on video during the hearing, becoming tearful as she talked about how she has been anxious and uneasy ever since the shooting. Since I was shot, I haven't been at peace, and I'm just trying to go unheard, not just by the shooter, but also by the people he's been paying to harass me ever since. In support of the order, which mandates that Tory keep at least 100 yards away from Meg and refrain from harassing, intimidating, or threatening her in any manner. Judge Richard Bloom noted uncontested facts, such as Tory firing 5 bullets at Meg. Michael Hayden, Tory's attorney, opposed the restraining order, claiming that Tory's imprisonment already removed any threat and that the petition was an attempt to restrict Tory's freedom of speech. In yet another legal chess move, on October 30, 2024, Meg filed a complaint in the Southern District of Florida for defamation and cyberstalking against YouTuber and commentator Margot Elizabeth Cooper, also known as Margot Grams. Cooper was accused of being Tory's spokesperson and puppet by disseminating false information about the shooting case, including a pornographic deepfake video of Meg and questions about whether she actually took bullets. Cooper's actions, according to Meg's lawyers, led by Alex Spiro, were a part of a larger effort by Tory to denigrate, belittle, insult, and spread false statements about Meg. On February 24, 2025, a federal judge authorized Meg to conduct a remote deposition of Tory in prison. This was the first time Meg would interrogate Tory under oath since the 2020 shooting, and it is a significant development. Related to this litigation, Tory's legal team has continued to file habeas corpus and appeals in the interim. False social media posts, such as one from DJ Akmikas, stated in October 2024 that a California appeals court had declared Tory innocent and would re-examine the case. Instead of a genuine verdict on innocence, these allegations originated from a procedural order that acknowledged a fresh petition from Tory's side, even after X's community notes and legal writer Megan Cuniff verified these untrue allegations. The post received a lot of interaction.
After over 2 years in prison without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed,
which exacerbated the harassment Meg was already experiencing. Some of Tory's day ones have implied that new evidence in the case may have anything to do with his current stabbing in prison.
The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
This video demonstrates how Tory's legal team raised the possibility of a link between the stabbing and fresh evidence they were looking for during a press conference following his capture of that fading in jail. Tory was taken to the hospital on May 12, 2025, after being shanked 14 times by inmate Santino Casio at the California Correctional Institution. This was the most recent outrageous twist in this ongoing saga. He had to be taken to an outside hospital for treatment after the attack caused both of his lungs to collapse. According to accounts, he is now recovering but sustained some significant injuries. Despite what some people are saying on social media, this incident has received a lot of attention. But it's crucial to remember that it has nothing to do with any video that features Megan Thee Stallion. Even while the stabbing is a terrible incident, it has nothing to do with any purportedly fresh evidence in the shooting case. Let's now examine why false information, such as the purported hospital video, continues to circulate in spite of the lack of receipts. Here a number of things are involved. First of all, there have been ardent supporters on both sides of the issue since the beginning. Meg has supporters who consider her as a victim of both assault and subsequent character assassination, while Tory has a devoted following of those who think he is innocent. Unverified claims that appear to support either story can proliferate like wildfire because of this split. Second, social media can quickly convert cap into facts, particularly X, previously Twitter. We witnessed how false allegations that Tory was found not guilty spread like wildfire in October 2020. Even though legal professionals refuted them, the dynamics of rumors regarding purportedly fresh video footage are the same. Third, casual onlookers become confused by the case's complexity and ongoing evolution. Keeping track of factual information becomes difficult for individuals who are not locked into every development because of the numerous court filings, appeals, restraining orders, and now Tory's fading in prison. Fourth, content producers have a financial motive to make dramatic claims. By spreading false information about well-known cases, bloggers like Margot Grams, whom Meg is suing for defamation, can increase their followings and earn money. This case has had significant cultural ramifications beyond the legal dispute, and false information, especially with reference to issues of gender, ethnicity, and credibility in the music industry and society at large. As evidenced by her documentary and public remarks, Meg has made use of her position to promote the protection of Black women and combat disinformation. Because Meg was first hesitant to expose Tory because she was afraid of police reprisals and public incredulity, the case has helped bring attention to larger cultural concerns.
You were afraid for your life at that time?
I was really scared because I had never been shot at before.
Such as the difficulties Black women encounter when reporting assault. The additional weight imposed on victims who speak forward, especially women of color, was demonstrated by the harassment she experienced online after that. In an interview with Gayle King, Meg talked about her reasons for not reporting the burner. to the police at first. Wider rifts in hip-hop culture and society are also reflected in the divisiveness surrounding this case. While some artists, like Drake, drew criticism for appearing to take sides, others made references to the case in lyrics that seemed to cast doubt on Meg's veracity. These answers brought to light current discussions in the field around gender, dynamics, loyalty, and accountability. Concerns concerning public debate and media coverage of high-profile occurrences have also been brought up by the case. Compared to other celebrity cases, like Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, the trial garnered less public coverage, according to some critics. This could be a reflection of racial and gender prejudices in media coverage. It can be challenging for casual spectators to distinguish between facts and fiction, because social media platforms have amplified voices on both sides and created competing narratives. Megan Thee Stallion. In her words, Meg's documentary, released in October 2024, gave her perspective on the shooting and its aftermath, including her battles with mental health and her attempts to take back control of her story. Following Tory's conviction, this publication allowed Meg to speak directly to the public about her experience, but it was unavoidably seen through the prism of pre-existing views on the case. Tory has continued to release songs while incarcerated, such as his 2025 album Peterson, which peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200. His ability to continue performing music while incarcerated has kept his viewpoint in the public eye, which has further complicated the case's story. If Tory behaves well, he will be eligible for parole in 2029 and be released in full around 2030. He will be in his late 30s by then, and he may encounter obstacles to resuming his work, such as the restraining order, continuing legal issues, and the societal movement for increased responsibility for violence against women. Backviews. The lawsuit as a public platform as much as a personal trauma. Her sustained success in music and other endeavors shows her tenacity, and she has received support for her activism for Black women and survivors of assault. However, the continuous difficulties she faces as a public figure who came out against abuse are highlighted by the persistent internet harassment and disinformation operations. I appreciate you rocking with me. Check out the other amazing videos that are currently playing on your screen. If you thought this one was crazy, they are comparable to Fire No Cap. I'll see you in the upcoming video. Remain alert.